At 4:11 a.m., a motion alarm at a row house in Northwood, Minnesota, captured a woman in a raincoat stepping through an unlocked back door carrying a hospital bassinet blanket. The infant upstairs was 8 days old. The security camera caught only her shoulder and the hem of the coat. She moved with purpose, crossed the kitchen, and cut power to the breaker panel. The house went dark. 8 minutes later, a neighbor's dash cam recorded the same woman leaving through the alley with the blanket folded tight against her chest. By sunrise, the parents had called 911. The front door remained chained. No window was broken. There was no forced entry. Whoever took the child knew the layout, the fuse box, and the time the mother used to feed between 3 and 4. Investigators found a calling card tucked under the crib mattress, a Polaroid of a chalk hopscotch grid, numbered exactly the way the mother drew it on her childhood sidewalk. Detectives traced the chalk pattern to a single address from 22 years earlier, and a name the mother had scribbled in elementary notebooks as her imaginary friend. The name matched a real person. She had lived 2 houses down, was 10 years older, and worked as a teen babysitter in the neighborhood. Her juvenile record was sealed. Her adult record was clean. Her last known employer was a home health agency. She had no children of her own. She had rented a storage unit 1 mile from the house 2 weeks before the kidnapping. The case moved fast because the timeline was tight and the message was clear. This wasn't random. It was a return. Northwood is a modest commuter town with split-level homes, bare maples in winter, and a small hospital on the south edge. The mother, Lena Hart, 28, grew up on Pinetop Avenue, 5 blocks from her current home. She teaches 2nd grade. Her husband, Mason Hart, 31, is a collision repair estimator. They installed a basic camera system after the baby was born. Their daughter, Nora, came home at 5 days old after an uncomplicated delivery. Family visited the first weekend, then left the couple to adjust. The name on the hopscotch Polaroid is Ari. As a child, Lena drew the letters on journal covers and told classmates it was her invisible playmate. Records show Ariel Ari Calder, now 38, lived 2 doors down during Lena's early years. Calder babysat neighborhood kids, including Lena, for cash. Her mother died when Ari was 16. Ari bounced between relatives, then disappeared from local schools. As an adult, she resurfaced with healthcare aid credentials and a history of short-term rentals under her legal name and a common alias, A. Reed. There is no immediate family tie between Ari and the Harts. The connection is proximity, memory, and access in the 2000s, enough to seed contact and, years later, intent. Detectives documented the entry. No pry marks on doors, no broken glass, latch plates intact. The rear deadbolt showed wear, consistent with a key. The Harts had 3 keys, 2 on their rings, 1 in a lockbox for an emergency sitter. The lockbox hung under the deck with a combination known only to Lena and Mason. The box was intact. There were no marks on the shackle. The keypad lock on the front door showed a smudge pattern consistent with repeated entries of the same 4 digits. The breaker panel, located in the basement laundry room, bore a fresh fingerprint in graphite dust. The kitchen window over the sink had a smudge in the corner where a gloved hand steadied the frame. The baby's room upstairs showed no struggle. A portable white noise machine was switched off at the plug. A pacifier lay on the rug. Patrol canvassed the block for cameras. One neighbor's doorbell captured a silent figure approaching from the alley at 4:06 a.m. Another showed a vehicle idling with lights off 2 houses down. A third recorded a shadow crossing the street at 4:19 a.m. The weather was cold and wet. The tracks in the alley were uniform, narrow tread, and led toward a side street with no cameras. Investigators pulled the Harts' phone logs. At 10:02 p.m., Lena texted Mason that the baby was finally asleep. At 2:58 a.m., she set a timer labeled feeding. At 3:41 a.m., the motion alarm flagged downstairs movement, then went offline when the power cut. Mason's phone pinged at home throughout. There were no calls out before 4:22 a.m., when Lena dialed 911. Crime scene techs examined the hopscotch Polaroid. The chalk pattern matched a photo in a digitized neighborhood archive from 2003. Pine Top Avenue sidewalk, boxes numbered 110 with a heart drawn over home. The handwriting on the Polaroid's back was printed, "Come play, L." The letter L matched old notebook doodles of Lena's childhood Ari notes, which her mother had saved in a memory box. That box, stored in Lena's attic, showed fresh handling. PD requested hospital outreach and statewide alerts. They distributed Nora's photo and vital details to airports, train stations, and highway patrol. They flagged pediatrician offices and urgent care clinics for any newborn check-ins. They notified pawn shops to watch for baby monitors or camera systems. The first break came from a clerk at Northwood Storage. 2 weeks earlier, a woman had rented Unit B17 and asked whether overnight access was allowed. She provided a healthcare aid badge for ID, Ariel Calder. She paid cash. The clerk remembered a white van with a home care logo. Detectives pulled the facility's gate logs. Unit B17 accessed the gate 3 times in the past week: Tuesday at 11:47 p.m., Thursday at 5:52 a.m., and the morning of the kidnapping at 3:53 a.m. Cameras showed a white Ford Transit Connect with a magnetic sign, "Kind Hands Care." The plate traced to a rental in Calder's name. The unit's lock was new. A search warrant executed at B17 revealed an organized space: a collapsible crib with clean linens, a mini fridge with labeled baby bottles, sterile pads, an unopened box of newborn diapers, and a plastic tote with childhood artifacts. A heart-stamped hopscotch stencil, a photo of young Lena in a driveway, and a spiral notebook labeled Rules. A battery-powered sound machine sat on a shelf beside a set of earmuffs and a blackout curtain. There was no infant present. A fresh bottle in the fridge suggested recent use. The Rules notebook listed routines: quiet feet, no lights, no sirens, feed schedule, home by dawn. It also listed addresses: the Hart's current house and their old Pine Top Avenue address. A map highlighted a safe trail through alleys to a cul-de-sac behind the storage center. On a final page, a line read, "When we're even, we go." There was no definition of even. Meanwhile, hospital records flagged a healthcare aide named Ariel Calder, assigned to a postpartum ward on a PRN basis 6 months earlier. She had access to new parent orientation schedules. She could view lists of families, consenting to home visit check-ins. The Harts had declined home visits, but their names and due date were in the system. Detectives put out a bolo on the white van and requested vendor records from Kind Hands Care. The agency confirmed Calder's contract and said she had missed 2 assignments in the week leading up to the kidnapping. Her last recorded visit was to a different new mother the day before Nora was taken. That mother reported nothing suspicious. The working picture: Calder prepared a controlled environment in a storage unit, learned newborn routines from her work, and targeted a family she knew from childhood. She entered using a key or code, killed power to disable cameras, and exited along a planned route. The question was why the Polaroid and what even meant. Date: Maura Keene led the case. She divided tasks across 3 lines: access, movement, and motive. Access. Locksmith analysis showed the Hart rear deadbolt's keyway had trace brass consistent with duplication. The emergency lockbox combination had been factory default until 2 days before delivery, when Mason set it, to the last 4 digits of Lena's phone. Only the Harts claimed to know it. The lockbox itself showed no tool marks. The inference was not forced entry but code knowledge or key possession. Digital forensics imaged the Hart's router, a foreign device connected to the guest network at 1:12 a.m., 3 nights before the kidnapping for 9 minutes. It identified as a generic Android handset. The guest password was printed on a card stuck to the fridge. The fridge door had a faint powder transfer later matched to hospital nitrile gloves. Movement. ALPR cameras picked up the white transit van exiting the storage facility at 4:02 a.m., turning east. A city traffic camera captured the van at a stoplight 2 miles away at 4:09 a.m. The plate was partially obscured by grime. A private security camera at a trucking yard showed the van entering a lot at 4:16 a.m., then leaving by a different gate at 4:21 a.m. The yard backed onto a trail system that led to a cluster of foreclosed homes with detached garages. A search team swept those garages. In one, they found a warm bottle sleeve, a portable heater, and a pacifier matching the brand from B-17. In another, they found a duffel with baby wipes and a roll of black plastic, the same make as the blackout curtain in the unit. No infant cries were heard. The trail led toward a river underpass and a municipal park and ride. Motive. Keene pulled school records. In a second-grade essay, Lena had drawn a picture of Ari with a blue bow, calling her "my friend who keeps me safe." Lena's mother confirmed a teen neighbor named Ari babysat briefly until an incident when Lena was 6. Lena came home with her hair cut and a bruise on her knee. Ari said they were playing makeovers. Lena's mother dismissed Ari after that and changed sitters. The family moved across town a year later. No police report was filed. Keene obtained Calder's juvenile file under court order. It documented neglect, a deceased parent, and multiple placements. A counselor's note mentioned attachment-seeking behaviors with younger children she watches, recommending supervision or removal from caregiving roles. Calder's adult history showed a pattern: short-term rentals, cash jobs, temp health care shifts, and, notably, a name change petition at age 23 that was denied. Her employment at Kind Hands Care gave her ongoing exposure to new families and schedules. Payroll records showed she declined assignments on nights coinciding with B-17 gate entries. The key link arrived through retail surveillance. A pharmacy near the storage facility had sold a specific brand of bassinet blanket and a battery sound machine 2 days before the kidnapping. The buyer wore a hospital-aid jacket and paid cash. The clerk recognized her and provided a first name: Ari. Detectives served a warrant on the rental van's GPS. It showed a stop in an alley 1 block from the Hart's house at 3:49 a.m., a pause behind the storage facility at 3:53 a.m., and a loop through the trucking yard at 4:16 a.m., exiting toward an older trailer park at 4:27 a.m. Patrol units moved. At the trailer park, Unit 12B showed a fresh padlock and blackout curtains. A maintenance worker identified the occupant as Anna Reed, a recent move-in who kept to herself. She had paid cash for 2 weeks. She drove a small white van sometimes. He saw her carry baby stuff inside earlier in the week. PD staged, breached, and cleared. Inside, they found a sanitized, quiet space. Shiny Sao, portable crib, and a sleeping newborn. Nora, alive, warm, and fed. A baby monitor showed camera views of the trailer and the lot outside. A whiteboard listed feed times and burp counts. There was no adult on site. On the kitchen table sat a folder labeled Even. Inside, photocopies of Lena's baby photos, a page listing firsts I missed, a photo of Pinetop Avenue's hopscotch, and a note: I promised to keep you safe. She broke the rules. I'll fix it. Then I'll go. Witness canvas located a woman matching Calder's description 2 blocks away at a bus stop, carrying a duffel. Officers detained her without incident at 6:58 a.m. She identified herself as Anna Reed and declined to speak. In her duffel, a spare phone, cash, nitrile gloves, and a ring of keys. The keys included a copy of the Hart's rear deadbolt and a master for the lockbox model under their deck. With Nora safe and medical checks underway, Keene shifted to building a case beyond abduction, the Stationte. Evidence indicated planning, specialized access, and a personal fixation, none of which required psychological framing in court. What mattered was the chain. Hospital system access giving Schedule A. Intersite. storage unit prep, key duplication, a staged trail, and a rebranding of a childhood babysitter as an imaginary friend who intended to replace a parent's authority with her own. Twist 1. The baby wasn't the first target. In the storage unit's rules notebook, forensic light revealed indentations from a torn page. Lab enhancement produced a list of addresses for new mothers. One was circled with Trial 1. That mother, interviewed quietly, admitted an incident 3 months earlier. A home care aide arrived unannounced after hours, claiming the hospital center. She knew the aide's name as Ari. The aide offered to teach nighttime routine, attempted to disable the living room camera for privacy, and asked to hold the baby in a darkened room. The mother grew uneasy and asked the aide to leave. No report was filed. Gate logs placed B-17 access the same night. The conclusion: Calder dry ran her method and pivoted when rebuffed. Twist 2. The imaginary friend had been inside the Hart's house before the abduction. Router logs showed 2 more guest network connections in the week prior, both within minutes of Lena posting baby photos to a private family group. The metadata on those photos, scraped by someone on the network, included the nursery's camera brand. The brand's app address and default credentials were printed on a sticker under the base. A packaging insert for that brand, with the default admin password circled, was found in B-17. Analysis of the Hearts Monitor app showed 2 unauthorized logins the week before the abduction. The IPs resolved to a public library and a mobile hotspot. The net result: Calder viewed the nursery in real time days in advance, confirming feed times, light positions, and camera angles. A third revelation emerged from keys. The emergency lockbox model used a common 4-wheel combination and shared a reset code. Tool marks were absent, but a prior owner had posted an online video showing how to pop the faceplate to read tumblers. On Calder's phone, investigators found a bookmarked forum post titled "Open Brand Lockbox Without Cutting." The Harts kept their backup rear door key inside that box. The simplest path for Calder was to open it quietly using the method: copy the key at a 24-hour kiosk, then replace it. A key-cut kiosk camera at a supermarket near the storage facility captured Calder duplicating a Schlager key 2 days before Nora's birth. Finally, motive sharpened through records. When Lena was 6, a CPS call had been made from a payphone near Pinetop Avenue. The caller complained that a babysitter was too attached. The file entry named no sitter, but the timeline and block list matched Ari. Within days, Lena's mother dismissed Ari. Calder's juvenile notes included a line, "removed from L." The "even" folder in the trailer included a clipping about reunification wins, and a page repeating "I promised" in block print. For the investigation, the interpretation was simple. Past access ended abruptly. Adult Calder sought to recreate and control first months with someone else's child using professional knowledge and improvisation. With those findings, the charging path expanded. Aggravated kidnapping, residential burglary, unlawful use of keys, illegal access to a protected computer system, nursery cam, wire fraud, use of hospital credentials to retrieve schedules outside scope, and stalking. The Trial 1 mother's account and the lockbox kiosk footage built pattern evidence of planning and method, not impulse. Interview strategy changed. Rather than focus on motive words, Keene prioritized verifiable acts. Dates of lockbox access, storage visits, kiosk use, router connections, and library logins. Confronted with logs and images, Calder's counsel negotiated limited statements to narrow exposure on computer charges, but the physical acts, entry, removal, transport, concealment, remained uncontested. The last twist was procedural and strengthened the timeline. The hospital audit showed that Calder's badge accessed Lena's maternity record after discharge at 1:06 a.m., 2 days before the abduction. The access pulled the discharge summary and listed recommended feeding intervals. Audit alerts should have flagged the after-hours lookup, but a misconfigured rule delayed notification. That sequence, after-hours chart view, router guest login, nursery cam access, gave the jury a clear technical ladder. The state charged Ariel Calder with aggravated kidnapping, first-degree burglary, child endangerment, unauthorized access to a computer, possession of burglary tools, key duplication method, wire fraud related to misuse of hospital systems, and stalking. Bail was denied based on planning, concealment, and risk to the community. Pretrial motions focused on the admissibility of digital evidence and the imaginary friend references. The defense moved to exclude juvenile records and childhood references as prejudicial. The court allowed limited juvenile file context for identity and prior proximity, barring character inferences. The court admitted router logs, nursery camera access logs, hospital audit trails, lockbox kiosk video, storage facility gate data, and ALPR hits, finding proper foundation and chain of custody. At trial, the prosecution presented a structured, action-centered case. Timeline, gate logs, ALPR, dash cams, and traffic cameras establishing movement from storage to house to trailer park. Access, lockbox kiosk footage, copied rear door key, and lockbox model exploitation materials found in Calder's phone and unit. Preparation, the outfitted storage unit, feeding schedule, whiteboard, rules, notebook, bassinet blanket purchase, and hospital badge audit of maternity records. Intrusion, router guest network logs and unauthorized nursery camera logins tied to public library IPs used by Calder, corroborated by library workstation sign-in sheets. Execution, breaker panel print, power cut, camera offline window, and infant removal with immediate transport evidenced by warm bottle gear and recent formula in B-17's mini-fridge. Concealment, blackout curtains, sanitized trailer, and alternate route through the trucking yard. Pattern, Trial 1, mother's testimony about a similar attempt, and B-17 gate logs matching that night. The defense argued nonviolent intent, asserting Calder provided competent infant care and returned the child unharmed within hours, framing conduct as a misguided protective removal without ransom or intent to permanently deprive. They sought jury sympathy by pointing to the orderly crib, formula, and temperature control. They disputed the burglary count by arguing consent was implied from a familiar relationship and an unlocked guest network. The state countered with the power cut, the undisputed lack of consent, the mechanical key duplication, the distance transported, and the planned concealment. They emphasized that any outcome short of immediate recovery relied on luck and rapid police work. The risk of harm was inherent and unacceptable. Digital forensics testimony remained clinical. How routers log MAC addresses, how nursery apps log off-site access, how hospital systems track badge queries, and how ALPR data is time-synced. The jury saw annotated timelines overlaying gate pings, GPS plots, and camera outages. A pediatric expert explained the dangers of transporting a neonate in cold weather without proper medical oversight. The verdict found Calder guilty on aggravated kidnapping, first-degree burglary, stalking, and unauthorized computer access. Guilty on a lesser-included count for the wire fraud charge, and not guilty on child endangerment, given the infant's documented stable condition and care in the interim. At sentencing, the court emphasized planning, intrusion, and the deliberate use of professional access to locate and time the abduction. Calder received a lengthy custodial sentence with mandated post-release supervision and a permanent ban on caregiving employment. The hospital paid a civil penalty for audit rule failures and tightened post-discharge data access. This case advanced by mapping actions, not feelings. A woman planned an abduction using routine hospital access, a storage unit configured as a nursery, a common lockbox exploit, and knowledge of a family she once watched. She left a Polaroid that connected her to a sidewalk game from 2 decades earlier, turning a childhood name into a lead detectives could pursue. What moved the investigation quickly was the convergence of small, verifiable points. A breaker panel fingerprint, a supermarket kiosk camera, a storage gate ping, an after-hours hospital audit, a router log, a nursery app login from a library terminal, a bottle, sleeve still warm in an abandoned garage. Each element took minutes to commit and seconds to record. Together they formed a path to the trailer door where the infant slept. The impact on Northwood was immediate. Families changed lockbox models and reset default credentials. The hospital revised off-hours access rules and removed non-essential visibility into discharge advisories. Storage facilities tightened overnight policies. Parents rechecked guest network cards taped to refrigerators. 2 questions remain for viewers. First, how many familiar faces in routine caregiving roles can pivot into access vectors without anyone noticing? Second, how many homes still carry default passwords and unlocked network paths that convert ordinary schedules into actionable blueprints? Lena and Mason Hart returned home with Nora before noon on the day of the recovery. They installed a hardwired camera, moved the breaker panel behind a locked cover, removed the lockbox from the deck. They kept the Polaroid sealed in the evidence envelope PD gave them and replaced the hopscotch heart with a steel door chain. The case closed with a conviction not because of a confession or a dramatic chase, but because the past left a paper trail and the present recorded everything else.